Hello folks, well we're back onto stereograms. I'm not going to call this a radiogram because it is a record player only, and these were referred to as stereograms. This is an HMV 2400. I think by this time you'll have seen the HMV 2412 that came in, which Mr. Chippy was working on, and I'm still waiting for a part for the Y one. So this is a library photo. It's not a picture of any of our units. A gentleman in Sheffield asked me to service this, and thereby hangs a story. I went in our super reliable 25-year-old Toyota Corolla, and when I came to start the car, the key wouldn't budge in the ignition. Something went wrong with the ignition barrel, so the customer kindly phoned the AA. They came and it was sorted, and I was off 90 minutes later. So it even happens to me sometimes. Anyway, I've ordered a new part for the car, and that will be £12.99. Not from the main dealer. So what do we need to do? I don't even remember doing a demonstration on this, but the customer says I did. So what I've done, I've printed off the information from radio and television servicing, and I've also printed off the 2400 ERT service sheet. That was Electrical and Radio Trading, which was a weekly magazine for the trade, and they incorporated a service sheet every week for different products, and if it was a complex product like a colour TV, that may run into 6 parts. So this is dated August 1969. It's 5 watts RMS per channel, and these are really good quality, and I really like these amplifiers which these use. We've got the circuit diagram upside down. We've got the circuit diagram. So what we're going to do as usual is we're going to change all the electrolytic capacitors, which now 52 years later are going to need changing. He says it sounds dreadful. I mean, I wouldn't have even switched it on, to be honest, with it being that age, because what you don't want to do is to have a short on capacitors, putting transistors under stress, which are going to be difficult to come by these days. Is it germanium? It probably is. Yeah, I mean, in line with Thorne's ideas at the time, they're often in-house type of parts like U3340-1. D1569 isn't 2SD, it's not like that. The output's AD161 and AD162, so that's fair enough. We have those in stock in matched pairs. So things to note: pilot lamp is 24 volts, 2.8 watts. Is there a pen on Mr. Chippy's bench? There's a scalpel. There's a pencil. MES 24 volts, 2.8 watts. Now that might be the same as used in the Stereomaster 2412. It is. So we've got those in stock. That's fine. So what we're going to do is make up a kit of parts. We've never made up a kit of parts for one of these before. I have a blank kit box to do this with. So what we need to do is to just identify what's an electrolytic capacitor on here. So that's going to be the big one, which is going to be in that strap there for the power supply, 4500. That's going to be electrolytic, that's going to be electrolytic, that's going to be electrolytic, and that, and that, and those which are hard to come by, and that, that, and that, and that, and that, and that, and that, and that. So we've got 2 microfarads. So that's that one. Cross these off as we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. We've got I know we've got 8. Had we got 4? Did I spot? No, we haven't in these. So 8 microfarads. So what have we got? Oh, we have got 4. It's there. I thought I'd seen it. So 4. We've got 1. 8 microfarads. We've got 1. 2. 2. And what else have we got as we move up? We've got 100. Yeah, 100. We've got 1. 400. Oh, we've got 300. 300 there. We've got 1. 400. We've got 1. And 2. And 750 microfarads. We've got 2 from memory. And then we've got 4 500, which is a CAN type. So just top this up again. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12 13 14 15 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12 13 14. I've missed one somewhere. How can I do that? 4 6 7 8 9 10 11 12 13. Missed one somewhere. There was 3 of something, wasn't there? Anyway, I'll go back on that. We'll make up a kit of parts. And so what we're going to do is 2 microfarads is an obsolete thing, so we put in 2.2. 4 microfarads is now 4.7. 8 microfarads will be 10. 300 will be 330. 400 will be 470. And 750 I think we can get. 4 500 will be 4 700. So that's what we do. And then the job will be a good one, as they say. Did I say these are a Garrard 3000 turntable? It says it's a ACOS GP94/1, so it's not the 90AH one which is used in the earlier ones. So that's what we'll do. I'll get a kit of parts together, and what we've done with the 2411 and 2412 is we've made up a kit like this. So I've got a blank box, and that's exactly what we're going to do with this. So I'll come back to camera in a moment. Okay, that's a kit made up. So I've labelled it as you'd expect, with the different components and the location. We'll put the original parts so I can make those decisions myself in the future as to what we put in. So we open that up and we've got an entire kit for this particular product. So with that, we will have to, what we're going to have to do is I'm going to have to take it over to our private chapel, which is still being built, because we've actually got nowhere to put it. I'll probably have to work on it in there because Mr. Chip is going to be in here working on the 2412. So we'll see how that pans out in the next part of this video. So we've actually got it on the bench now, the 2400 from the customer in Sheffield. And the first thing I noticed is examining the mains plug is no longer one that's permitted in the UK because it doesn't have the shrouded pins. So that's something we'll be changing. I'm just going to check. We're not going to plug it in because the customer says it doesn't work, and we don't want to put any undue stress on it because the capacitors will be faulty, and we don't want to damage any transistors, which, being mainly germanium in this, are going to be hard to come by and expensive. And believe it or not, this is due back to the customers tomorrow and we haven't started it yet. I like making omissions like that on videos, but although there's about 6 hours work to do, so just have a look in there. What kind of fuse is that? It is a 3 amp fuse, which is absolutely excellent. We will be replacing the plug, but for now we'll put that back together. I just wanted to make sure that it was safely wired for the point at which I do plug it in. So we're going to go straight onto the turntable. It's a Garrard 3000, but unlike the previous models where it was a Sonatone 90AHC cartridge, this uses a GP93 cartridge, which I don't think is quite as good. But that's me. The centre decal is missing, and I've got my assistant Andy here, and he will kindly get me a piece of blue towel, in fact 2 pieces of blue towel from the dispenser. Because it's quite a good condition cabinet for 1969, and we'll try and keep it that way. Now the other telltale is we've got the little manual spindle in, and that's always indicative that the mechanism's jammed. The auto spindle is here, and we'll be putting that in when we've serviced the turntable. Now these are different to the ones on BSRs, and it's come out, so that's all right. So that's the clip. Hopefully it'll lift off. Yes, it's lifted off, so it isn't totally jammed. So normally these are gummed up, and that was. So I would think that if you try playing a record, it would go so far in and then it would start skipping, because this auto stop mechanism was in fact jammed. So take that circlip off for the auto mechanism. We'll hopefully remove that. Yes, it's come off, and it's not got tons of grease on it, so that's been removed at some point in the previous life. So we're going to take this circlip off for the idler, and there we have it. So there should be a thrust washer. There is plastic one there, and there should be a lower thrust washer as well. So I'm just going to remove that so we can clean this properly. But it looks a very low hours unit, this, and it certainly had some service work, because the awful grease originally put on isn't there. I'm not going to be tempted to power this up, as I say, because of the possibility that we're going to damage it. So I'm just going to pop some oil onto the motor shaft, being careful not to get it on the stepped thing there that goes across the idler. So that's that done. I'm going to use WD-40 to dissolve the old grease and oil. We need a piece of kitchen roll, Andy. It's going to be quicker today with this assistant, you see. There we go, that'll do. So I'll put it WD-40 onto there. We just want to get some of this off from there, off from there. And we'll take this off, which is the ball race, and just check. I'm going to put some lubrication on there. That's as dry as a bone. So we'll get the oil onto that. I like to put a bit in the centre spindle as well, because you've got some of the auto mechanism in there. Put some on there. Put the lower washer back. Put the ball race back. And put some oil on that. Put the upper washer back. And we've now got the grease in that Andy from Vintage Audio Electronics at Stockport has mentioned. This definitely needs to come off today. Hopefully. What I don't want these to do is to fly across the room. Yes, we have got replacements. So on these, that is seized absolutely solid. So it would have gone 2/3 into the record and then skipped with it in that state. So just pop that other circlip off. It's slightly different to the BSR design. So it's the lower one. I'll take that out. It's going to take some getting out. I'll carefully lever it out, otherwise we might have to apply heat. As it happens, I'm able to get it out. Only because I've got strong fingers. So, I'm going to put some WD-40 in that track. And once again we're going to run round that just to clear out what's in there. So we've got a bit of muck out of there, which is always going to help. So the other thing I want to do, we'll run some WD-40 into there. I could do with a pipe cleaner in this instance, but I'll soon have this cleared out, I can assure you all. Once again we'll get whatever's causing this its problem cleared off. I'm going to put some oil on that. I've got my finger underneath so that it's staying put, and I'll put that back in, and now it's freely moving. I'll waggle that around a bit. I'm going to take it out again and clean it off again and apply the oil again, just to make sure we're clearing off anything that's in there. That feels alright. Put the circlip back. And you can see that's now as it should be. Put that back. And put that circlip back. I'll just check that one with the pliers. It feels like it's on, but you never know. So that's loose. That's loose, so that's now fixed. So what we'll now do is I'll go and get this grease which has arrived. Now I've did the HMV training course about 1979, and they did say to use light oil, but Andy's experience is to use, and my assistant's Andy as well, is to use this particular grease. So we're going to give it a go on this one. So just pause the camera. What Andy did suggest was to use this Granville anti-seize grease, which looks like to be a copper one. I better pierce the top with the thingy and then hope pals doesn't pop out. I'm going to be very careful on this. So we've not put grease on ever before. That's all that's going on. And I'll run that round with that. I mean, it's going to work its way round on its own, isn't it? That's it, done. So, are we going to be able to put this back, or are we going to have to put the bit of wire around like we do usually? Here's the moment of truth. But before I do that, I will just put some oil on my finger, and that one, and the spindle which we took the idler off. Could I have another kitchen roll piece, please? I always like the little brush on these, so the stylus gets brushed every time it goes back onto its rest. Good, so that's another thing. So, will this fit? Yes, it does. Incredible. So we'll put that circlip back. Just like that. And now we'll just clean this idler. So with the isopropyl alcohol and the other piece of kitchen roll that Andy brought me. I'm spraying that onto the paper rather than onto the rubber idler wheel. We're going to go around that. I don't think this has been smoked in the vicinity of, which does affect them. Bit of muck come off that, but not that very much. So we need to put the bottom washer back, which was the fibre one, the idler back, the thrust washer which we missed off the BSR and had to dismantle, and the circuit, which I'm going to have to use the pliers with because this is slightly more fiddly to do than the BSR ones. There we are, that's back on. Let's just see that spins. Yeah. That looks alright. So I'll just cut a bit of that off. And with the isopropyl alcohol, we'll just do the motor shaft. I would like to do this with the motor running, and I think that's probably where we're going to leave this. I'm also going to just put that isopropyl alcohol around the metal rim of that turntable, just in case there's any green or fag smoke. There's a bit of muck come off there. So we'll leave that at that. And it'll be time to take the electronics out. But before we do that, just going to have a look at this stylus. Just going to try and have a look at this stylus. So I'll get the stylus microscope, pause the camera. So with the stylus microscope, readily available, eBay and all that, for about $5.99, I'm going to have a look at this stylus and let's see what I think. Well, I have seen worse, I must say. It looks okay. Looks okay. Well, what is it? I don't know what it is. See if I can put it back, that's another art. At least you can move the tone arm right up on these. That's easier than some of them. I'll put that in the LP position, and what we're going to do now is we'll be taking the chassis out and Mr. Chippy will be doing the electronics, and then we'll come back to the record turntable. If you can put that back in the drawer for me, Andy, thank you. We'll put the lid down and I'll pop these two screws out. In the kitchen, Andy, in the top cupboard where the glasses are kept, the absolutely top, I think, well, no, next to that top shelf where all the glasses and the glassware are some small things which had cheesecakes in once, about the size of these. Could you fetch me one of those, please? Well, that made a nice noise, didn't it? Whilst he does that, I'll put this on its side. Okay. So with the bottom off, we can now see the amplifier, which is on a wooden chassis. And here comes the pain, because we've actually got to cut this off and then resolder it back on. It's not plugs and sockets. And there's enough wire to cut this off. Then at least we know how to put it back on. So that's the pickup. I don't think that's in a plug and socket either. So we'll cut that off from the transformer. There's enough wire once again for us to sort that out later. And that leaves us with the speakers. And again, we can just cut those off. So not like the later models where it's in plugs and sockets. So what I'll now do is hopefully withdraw the amplifier chassis. I can't remember whether you've got any. No, you've nothing else. Oh, there's the mains lead. There is something else. We just need to unscrew that from its P clip. It's a 4BA. There we go. And hopefully we can withdraw it now. You just feed that through then. And these are so much easier than some of the later models in other respects, which I'll show you when we get the chassis down. So just take this off the bench.